Thank you. Yes. So, hello everyone. I'm Toby. I do a lot of Ableton Live, Max for Live programming. And as you could see in this performance, and might be able to see something different here, what's happening than what you are usually used to when you hear live instruments with electronic sounds coming from the computer. So there were no backing tracks at all here happening, and I don't want to go too technical. If you're interested in this, I have lots of resources on the web. Just search for Melody Trigger and Ableton Drummer, and if you want to dive deeper into that technique, or if you have questions, we will find time for that later on. I want to focus on kind of like what is my perception here of music production, and where do I see the challenges for people who are music performers who are doing similar things like I'm doing. And I prepared three theses or 3 points I want to present to you, and I want to discuss with you if we find enough time for that. I can't see you, so it's a little bit weird for me to present this. So I'm sure if there are questions, Theo will organize that. Ah, yeah, okay. I can see a little more. Hey, yay. Awesome. Cool. So there is this one challenge when performing popular electronic music. So music production for listening to music is defined by the production of electronic dance music off stage. So when performing electronic dance music live, a certain sound standard is expected by the audience. This sound standard is set by the listening habits that result from the current production standard for electronic music. So, for example, mixing and fine-tuning of like hundreds of tracks and subtracks, audio effects and automations which can't play it live. Master compressions, mixing, and adjustments to LUV's loudness targets. So every producer or even bedroom producer, small producers who are putting and releasing music via Spotify, for example, they have to be able to apply those techniques in order to not to be noticed negatively on Spotify, because their music's gonna sound flat to the song before, or it's gonna be too quiet. Yes. So if this is the expectations from the audience, then music production for live performance works a little bit different. So for concerts of popular music bands, for example, rock and jazz bands, the point of sound is important, but it's only a part of the overall performance. So I think we all been there on shows where we would have loved to be the drummer quieter, or the violin louder, or stuff like that. So, but a sound doesn't have to be and cannot be perfectly mixed in a live environment compared to a production at home or at a computer. So, but it still works even if it's not audible. It just have to be perceptible by eye. So obviously that's a difference for when a drummer is performing. You can see a big movement. If you compare that to a trumpet player, obviously there are differences here. But the focus from the audience is on the connection between movement and sound, or something visual is happening and sound. So my third point would be that music performers connect to the audience, making their production visible. So production could mean or should be thought of what is the core source of producing a sound. And this is what the audience can perceive. When a drummer hits a cymbal, everyone who sees it understands the movement and can hear the sound, even if you're at a huge venue and you can't hear the drummer properly. If you see the drummer playing, you can feel the sound, even if you can't hear it. Maybe all the equipment used after that production of sound, so I mean miking, amplifying, and mixing, is just the second step after the initial producing the sound experience, which is trying to amplify this. So my thesis would be electronic music performers are facing the challenge to find ways to translate making sounds to movements, gestures, and something visible which the audience can comprehend and can relate to. And especially when you are just turning a knob to change an effect. Obviously, if you make the movement with your whole body, it's much more performance and something people don't need to understand what's happening exactly, as people don't understand if someone is playing a violin, but people can understand and can connect to something is happening and is being controlled here. Yes, so I would like to discuss this if you would agree, or if you think, no, Toby, this is completely wrong. You're missing out that point or this point. I would love to, if you have some opinions on that, or if you share the experience, or.
Well, wonderful. Bit of feedback. First of all, a very, very fascinating performance. And how we will manage this is I will ask for questions from the audience and invite somebody to the podium. So we set up to communicate with you from this microphone. If I may pop the first one or two questions, and I'm unsure whether this is a technical, a musical, or a hybrid question, but I'm curious to know whether your evolution as a drummer underwent any changes as you began to incorporate technical solutions to this performative mode that you currently are engaged in. In other words, interacting with technology in real time. Did this change at all you as a drummer?
Yes, definitely. So, I mean, my background is playing in rock bands when I was a teenager, and playing a lot of punk and indie rock music. So we never played to a click track. Maybe at some recordings we did in the recording studio. So one aspect here for a drummer, or generally for playing to stuff which is coming from the computer, usually means you are bind to the clock from the computer. So you put in the tempo there, 110 BPM, and you're playing this tune every night, every time, on the same speed. And sometimes you feel like, actually, this should be a little bit faster tonight, or this should be a little bit slower. You're feeling the energy from the crowd, and you think like, whoa, they are really going for it. Let's go a little bit faster, maybe 5 BPM, or just like, and things like that are very limited when you play to backing tracks and to stuff from the computer. So this technique I'm using here is completely different, because I'm not playing to backing tracks, so I can go very out of the tempo. I can go very fast. I can change, and I can for example, in the first song, I just realized I played a few parts twice as long as I wanted to play them, because I'm in control of everything. I'm kind of jamming with the computer. So yes, this obviously relates back to how I'm playing drums.
Stunning, stunning. That is super, super interesting. You see, for a person looking from the outside in, watching this these performances a minute ago, you sense that this is not a straight drumming performative sort of event, and you're seeking to understand what the influence of technology would be in this performance, in this instance of a performance, and at the same time you're thinking, well, but hang on, somebody without technical insight, a drummer without technical insight, would have difficulty to operate like you are. So I really admire the way in which you utilize the instrument, the kit, as an extension, a performative environment in its own right. I have a second question, if I may. The fact in the first music example that you played, am I correct that there was little use of any high frequency splash cymbal like sounds at all, or am I mistaken? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you're right. It's
Okay.
pretty much focused
And,
on.
and so I was thinking, is there a technical reason? So, or does the implementation of the performance require the implementation of the technical solutions to the performance? Do these require that you perhaps step back on any long extended splashy high frequency stuff, or was it sheer coincidence?
Sheer coincidence.
Good. Well, that's very good marketing for your technical solutions that I've been watching online, because it means you can take care of the entire kit, which in my
Yeah.
opinion is a symphony orchestra on its own, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I would say there is a fine line, and it's always kind of like a struggle. If you go technical and if you develop your own instruments and your own solutions, um, and new techniques, it's kind of like going down the technical route and not necessarily making so much music or focusing
Yeah.
on music.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's a fine line between those two things, and it's kind of like having two personalities where one is like, oh, you could do that, you could do this, you could do
Yes.
that. And the
Yes.
other one is kind of like, well, stop, I just want to make music,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the main
Yeah.
reason. So yeah, that's
Wonderful.
definitely something to,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Wonderful. We have, excuse me, we have with us Dr. William Fourie, a colleague of mine. He's from Rhodes University down the road. We've been collaborating on many projects, and he would like to pose a question, please.
Yes, please.
Hi, Toby.
Hello.
Really cool stuff. And I'd like Theo have been, poking around in some of your online resources, which have been really helpful, I think, for me to understand, as a non-technical person, some of how to think through some of these triggers and so on. And I'm just really struck by a kind of current that's also been emerging throughout a number of the works that we've seen at Bode Electrons this year, where there's this increasing use of visualization, even for the straight acousmatic, the speaker music as it used to be. And I think you've hit the nail right on the head to sort of think that listening is something that's both this visual, even kind of haptic, so sensorial, so with the body, and auditory kind of combination of stuff. And one of the questions that I always have when I'm listening to a tune on Spotify or something like that is how much producers are really thinking about the visceral movements in sound, and trying to imagine bodies moving in the tracks, because oftentimes you just get this really straight panning. People aren't playing very much with the resources available to them in terms of spatialization and stuff like that, which doesn't always come across in fairly low fidelity, recordings. That the stuff streamed from Spotify, for instance, tends to be quite bad file formats and so on. But I'm wondering, so I get that you're saying that in live performance, when we're thinking about electronic music production, we have to think about the movements of the body, showing how you like turning the knob, turning your body, that type of thing. Can you tell us a little bit more, perhaps even in a bit of technical detail, how you kind of imagine this in just straight up, produce tracks for a platform like Spotify or whatever streaming platform you're kind of thinking about? Thanks.
Yes. Could you give me, like, if I should give you an example, if you give me like a set, if you say like, okay, let's say we have a performance of this kind of music or this kind, so we I think we need to,
Get a little bit closer.
yeah, just I'm
Okay.
not sure what your musical background is for performing, or so just so I get an idea of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what kind of.
So sadly enough, I'm just a musicologist, so I have no musical background. No, I kid.
That's
I mean,
musical.
I'm thinking like, so I mean, for instance, in South Africa, I don't know if you're acquainted with the amapiano kind of style of music, or maybe a little bit older kwaito, or we can speak about house music as well, for instance. And we often had like quite few parameters in the electronic dance music. Like you've got a good beat, you've maybe got like two good tunes. You've got a nice bass line, for instance. You've got a kick, of course. Everybody has a kick. And there's this idea that in this music, it kind of just moves sort of temporally forward and isn't doing anything more about the spatialization except vertically, right? So you have some movement down in the bass, and you have some movement in some of the beats and stuff like that, and maybe some kind of sense of movement in the melody, but you don't really have this kind of horizontal spatialization at all. And maybe some tips for thinking through how these gestures, the sense of gesturing might come out in these sort of forms of EDM. But I mean, whatever music you want to speak about as well, I mean, I'm fairly open
Okay.
to,
Okay.
we can even speak about punk. So, yeah.
Specialization in punk
Punk,
music.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe punk is a good example to start off with, because if like, I mean, I haven't played like huge venues, but if you play a punk show to, let's say, 150, 200 people, maybe a room the size you people are in now, it's all about the energy, it's all about the excitement, it's like wild energy. So if we take this as one example, so it's and the sound is already, because you have speakers, you have the acoustic drum sounds, you have a specialization of sound already. If you're standing close to the guitarist on the right side, you might not be able to hear the guitarist from the left side. So specialization is already there. For example, sound wise, experience wise, if we compare this to someone playing a mix via two speakers, there you go, you know. So you already limited the sound experience, or not limited, but it's a completely sound experience, because the sound sources are somewhere completely else. So what could be done to create a feeling of spatialization, even if you don't have like a 7.8, 7.1 system, for example, in the room? It wasn't planned, but I have an example here. So this is a Guitar Hero guitar. Works via Wiimote. Very affordable because of mass production, but very, very good technology. So I can play, and I used this to do this on some shows. I just use this guitar to play a bass line, and because it's wireless, I can go into like into the crowd. I can go maybe about 20 meters from the computer, and it still will work. You know, so this way, I'm kind of like, I'm not specializing the sound in production, but for the people, for their experience, I am.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just one simple example, and this was really important. So I ended up using this because I was using something similar, like I was using in the video, just a hand track movement thing to control stuff, and I was even controlling the lights with this and stuff, and I got the feeling of like people are standing there, like 200 people seeing me, and two people in the front are like, whoa. But the rest is kind of like, why is he moving so weird to the music? So from a technological standpoint of view, I was doing stuff which was too advanced, which like people don't know that you can control lights via your hands movement and bass sounds and stuff. So I needed to step back and say, I need to use something visually which translates that I'm doing music with it. So if I'm just using the Wiimote, it wouldn't work. If I'm using this in a body of a guitar, people don't know that I'm playing the bass line now. They can't separate exactly the music and stuff, but they know and they feel that I'm playing music with this.
Yeah.
If I may chip in, I think you've just provided us with a solution to both electrons, because people are also saying, why is Harps doing these weird movements? You know? Perhaps the answer lies in a controller of sorts. From the floor, any additional questions? I think we are all looking very much forward to the performance, the full performance. And Tobi, I don't think I know that you've made a very, very important impression in your previous visit to Cape Town and also today. And for that, I would like to thank you. It's so cool to speak with somebody who's got a vibe, who rocks, you know. So, yeah, excellent. More of it,
Thank
please.
you so much.
Ciao, ciao.